Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Heroes of the Shire, Light and Shadow, a tactical fantasy combat adventure for 1 to 6 players that builds everything around a structured, spell-driven combat system. Now, before you dive in and get into the branching campaign paths or expanding elemental regions, the game helps you learn how to fight first. And honestly, that makes a ton of sense because combat is the foundation here. Everything else, the exploration, the merchant interactions, the scenario structure, grows outward from that central engine. Now, what you see here on the table is a working prototype, obviously. Some components are still being finalized and one hero isn't currently playable in this build due to a misprint. And portions of the scenario content are still in development. So today I'm really focusing on how the system functions and how it feels because the core mechanics are clearly in place. So at its heart, this is a tactical spell system. On your turn, you're not just rolling and attacking, you're selecting structured spells, managing cooldowns, tracking conditions, and thinking carefully about where you're standing on a hex-based map. Position matters here, and line of sight and range matters. The difference between being 1 hex too far or 1 hex too close can completely change how a spell resolves. The spells themselves feel constructed rather than improvised, and effects resolve in a defined order. Dice values matter, and cooldown timing creates pacing decisions. There's also an elemental layer underneath the combat that modifies how certain damage types interact. So matchups genuinely influence your choices instead of just adding thematic flavor. It adds texture without adding chaos. Conditions in the game like burn or freeze, they're not just decorative. They alter the board state. Buffs are categorized and tracked cleanly with temporary effects and longer lasting enhancements that shape how your hero performs over time. So you start to feel that identity sharpen as you unlock new options through spell mastery, which is so cool. Heroes don't feel interchangeable. Even at the beginning, they lean into those different roles, and as you upgrade them, that direction becomes even clearer as the game progresses. The tutorial begins in the arena mode, and that's exactly the perfect spot to begin. Essentially, it's a 1 versus 1 battle, and even if your main interest is cooperative play, that's a smart move. It teaches you the engine first. You can even run it solo by controlling both heroes, which is what I did. Which it is also helpful for learning pacing and understanding how the system interacts. Once that clicks, the game expands into scenario mode. And that scenario mode builds outward from a central hub and branches into light and shadow regions. You'll construct maps from the scenario binders, resolve exploration, draw action cards that create branching outcomes, and manage a backpack with limited space. That backpack limitation is subtle but very, very important because it forces you to make those tough decisions about what to carry forward instead of just hoarding everything. There's also a wandering merchant system that adds a bit of campaign infrastructure between fights. Something I really enjoy about board games and even video games is just having that wandering merchant throughout the game. It gives you a reason to think about progression beyond just surviving that next encounter. Now, as you explore, encounter tokens left across the map add a whole nother layer of unpredictability. When one is collected, you roll that boss dice and trigger one of several possible events. You might uncover a Shire stone that acts as a secondary revival point, encounter the wandering merchant that we talked about, discover a mystical spring that replenishes your water jug for in-combat healing, hire an allied mercenary to assist you, or even trigger a wave of mobs, which is not particularly fun sometimes. It gives the world a roaming feeling rather than just feeling, every moment being fixed or scripted. And boss battles elevate things even further. Bosses operate from dedicated boards and bring unique abilities and modifications into play, so they feel mechanically distinct from standard enemies, which is nice, and their mechanics can also shift at different HP thresholds, meaning that the fight you're having in the first half may not look the same in the second. For example, the Prison Breaker splits as you defeat it, first into 2, then into 4 versions, changing the map pressure and force you to rethink positioning as the battlefield fills up. It's not just more health, it's different pressure, and the shift in pressure changes how you're going to be approaching positioning and spell timing. Even small production details like the updated D10 used for tracking give that battlefield a bit of personality, and while not every combat map in this prototype is currently intended for play, the scenario binders already give the impression of a growing library of encounters. When complete, the spiral scenario binders are intended to include 47 playable combat maps, each designed to run roughly an hour, giving a clearer sense of the intended scope. There's a sense of scale here, and it scales from true solo all the way up to 6 players, which is ambitious for a tactical system like this. Now, what stands out to me is that even with this scope, That structure underneath keeps it grounded. It feels ambitious without feeling overwhelming. You can read the board state, you can plan, and you can see how your build decisions ripple forward into later turns. So if you enjoy tactical fantasy combat where spell structure, positioning, and status effects genuinely matter, this is clearly aiming for that audience. The light and shadow framing gives the campaign a sense that you're stepping into something larger than a single battle. And that progression system reinforces the identity over time. And I'm also excited that the team has begun adding light narrative framing at the start of the scenarios, giving players context to why the heroes venture into the wilds to begin with. While this is clearly a combat system first, those narrative touches help set the stage and support immersion, which is something I love in games. The project is still evolving, but the combat engine, the part you interact with every turn, already shows clear design philosophy. And that's really where this game lives. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now that said, I had not experienced this game until this version, so I can't wait to go back and try some of the others, as well as dive into this when it finally becomes a published version. And they have some really neat things going on here. I love the spell system, and the different characters, and how you interact with this world, and how you could just sit down and do some combat if that's what you want to do. But I definitely would gravitate towards the cooperative scenario system for sure. That's right up my alley for games that I enjoy. And the production value here is just off the charts. The artwork, the acrylic standees, just simply fantastic. I love that they're adding the narrative. Is something I'm definitely going to be in tune with, or tuning into I should say, because I love that in games for sure. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.